Hey guys, what's up? Today we're out on location at the moment underneath Amnicola Highway at the section where it becomes a very long bridge, not just across water but also across land, as you can see over there. And the reason for that is because this is, up there is where my Monday commute home from work turned into an overnight adventure, and it happened to work pretty well with the video that I had planned, so I decided to just incorporate it into it. We'll discuss the dynamics of what happened Monday night to lead up to the adventure. Stick around and we'll talk more about it. My daily commute home from work is about a 45-mile drive from that way. It's diagonally across the county from the northeast point to the southwest corner to be home. And on Monday night, when I got to this area, this whole area was covered with snow. But the adventure didn't begin until right up there. Right there where the rail begins, where you see that's the beginning of the bridge. And it's a long winding bridge that goes around. And the reason for the adventure beginning right there is because of the thermodynamics of what happens with cold air, moisture, and bridges. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. I want to get back under the bridge. The reason for the adventure beginning at the bridge abutment is because up until that point, right here, other than a few small bridges the other way, most of this road gets to benefit from being on solid ground, which means it gets to benefit from the heat of the earth and the cold temperatures only attacking it from one direction, from the top. So it took longer for the snow buildup to become a danger. But then that dynamic changes as soon as it goes over the abutment. Because once you get to here, it's cold air above and below. And the cold air had been blowing through here for days and days. And this bridge is actually pretty long, and you'll see it goes on around over this creek and then doesn't go back onto solid ground again for about another 300 or 400 meters that way. And because of that, all of this concrete that never sees sunlight was extremely cold after several days of being below freezing temperatures here. So all of this bridge, from that point there on down, was just one solid sheet of ice. And that's where all the wrecks began. And from this point here to the other end of the bridge, I had to slalom between 3 different auto accidents as they were in the process of occurring. And then when I got to town, I just, not knowing how bad the entire thing was and knowing that the mountain was going to be just as bad, I decided to stay off the mountain for the night. And one of the reasons I put these kits together, the cold weather kit and the contingency kit, is for moments like this, when an unexpected snowstorm shuts everything down and there's wrecks in the ice all over the place, and I can't make it home, and I have to stop and find somewhere to stay for the night. Luckily this time I'm in town and there's room at the inn. And I have a place to stay without having to find a place to bivouac out in that mess. But you never know what your circumstances are going to be. So when you put the pack together, you prepare for the worst. And I have shelter materials in my pack, but I definitely much prefer a warm hotel room if I can get it. The roads are icy enough down here off the mountain. And my pathway home is, see where all those lights are right there? That's the highway going across the ridge where all those cars are creeping along, going over that ridge. And then beyond that, I'd have to go up serpentine, winding roads up a much taller mountain. And from all the accidents I've seen just getting to here, I'm just not going to risk it. I have to admit, I wasn't expecting this. It caught me off guard, but I'm glad I was prepared for it. Having the smaller modular kits and the larger kit definitely come in handy here. This is an older hotel, so it predates having USB ports every 3 feet around the room, and has lots of plugins for USB ports. So luckily I keep one in my kit all the time so I can charge my phone or charge my batteries for my lights. And in this case, considering I didn't have the video camera with me, I'm going to be needing to charge the phone because I'm shooting a lot of this video with it. I'm doing this part of the video to illustrate another point. I have my bag, my cold weather kit, my contingency kits with me, so obviously I have foodstuffs and I'm not going to starve, even if I had stay here at the hotel and at the Marriott Courtyard in Chattanooga. And so it isn't a case that I was stuck eating that. I want to talk about something that very seldom gets talked about in preparedness, and that is just being thrifty enough with your money to be prepared to be able to afford a night at a hotel and food. You know, just prepping isn't always about the end of days or the apocalypse. Sometimes it's just about getting through an ordinary Monday that went wrong at the end. Just like today when everything is suddenly covered in ice. And after all of that, I got to tell you, after slaloming through 3 different wrecks and almost being ran into 4 times before I could get my car into the parking garage and get back down here for the night, being able to have a nice lager and a warm meal just to sit down and relax means a great deal to me. And one thing people never stress is, you know, almost very few people carry cash anymore. And there's a problem with that because we haven't yet become a cashless society. And if we have any sense, we won't become a cashless society because cash still works even when the lights and the register and everything isn't. So that was the whole purpose behind this part of the video was, yes, I was prepared to make sure I didn't starve, and I was prepared to make sure I didn't get cold, and prepared to deal with any first aid, and prepared for all of that, but at the same time was also just prepared to live life. And I think that's something that needs to be thought about more in some of the preparedness scenarios. As you can see here, cold weather kit really came in handy. It's even though I didn't have to use the shelter part or build a shelter in my car with a bivy bag or whatever, I still had my hand warmers for my hands while I was back and forth between the parking garage if I needed them, and I still have my first aid kit and my phone charger and the thermal layer of clothes in the bag. Worked great as pajamas instead of sleeping in my work clothes that night here at the hotel. And that goes into the cold weather kit. Next, we're going to go into another kind of bag. I don't know, hopefully we can lighten this video up some. But this is a different kind of contingency bag for a whole different purpose. The cold weather kit is more for just a normal day gone wrong. And the next kit that I'm going to get into is designed more from a perspective of the whole world turning upside down. Kind of like I did in Minneapolis after Memorial Day of 2020, and kind of like I did in Atlanta shortly after Memorial Day of 2020. Things like that have happened in LA, New York. It can get pretty bad at times, so looking at the unrest that we're having shown to us every day on our televisions, the inspiration for the next kit is something a little more involved, a little more mission specific, and not so much for a normal day. And there's two different schools of thought on this, and I'll go into both, but some people want more compartmentalized and don't mind the tactical look. Some people, for their environment, they need something that looks less tactical and more like something you buy at a hardware store, or at a department store, and just looks like something anybody would be walking down the street carrying any day. And there are reasons for both depending on the area and the circumstances you're dealing with. And so we'll go into more on that one in the next video. Thanks for joining us today. As you can hear the thunder in the distance. We've gone from snowstorms to thunderstorms and possible tornadoes. So today may get interesting. But I've got stairwells to hide in if I need to. So I think everything will be all right. But pop in next time for the next video. It's going to be a longer, more involved video, more extensive kit, more purpose-driven. So I hope you join us for that. And until then, have a blessed day.